Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze the key tactical themes in Southampton's narrow 1-0 FA Cup win over Arsenal. We break down the game and we do look at the board. We have Southampton in a 4-4-2 and Arsenal starting the game in a 4-2-3-1. So first we're going to break down how both sides look to approach the game on the board and then show you some examples as to how they were able to get themselves into good attacking positions. First we'll start with Southampton. They had Adams and Ings stepping out to the center backs, Walcott and Armstrong pushing out to Cedric and Bellerin, and then Diallo and Ward-Prowse would step higher on El Neni and Xhaka. That means that one of Stevens or Bednarek would have to push forward to Willian, but that wasn't always the case for the Southampton side. We did see variations in the manner in which they did look to press. For instance, there was a time where you had Ward-Prowse stepping into the path of Xhaka, and rather than having Diallo pushing forward to close down El Neni, he held his position in a central area to ensure that Willian couldn't get the ball between the lines. If Willian did look to drop off a bit deeper, there was a time where you did see Diallo step in towards his path and Ward-Prowse held his position to ensure that their center of the pitch couldn't get breached. If Adams and Ings didn't step forward to the Arsenal center backs, then they would drop off and block off the passing lanes into El Neni and Xhaka, and Armstrong and Walcott would tuck in to keep Southampton's shape very narrow. Once they did push forward to apply pressure to the Arsenal center backs, then you would see Diallo and Ward-Prowse stepping forward to close down El Neni or Xhaka if they did drop off deeper. And then if we look to an example of the other Southampton alternative, we end up seeing Ings stepping towards Holding and Adams holding his position, blocking off the passing lane into Xhaka rather than stepping into Gabriel. That's when you end up seeing Ings pushing too close down Holding and blocking off the passing lane into El Neni. And also we see Ward-Prowse stepping forward to close down El Neni as Diallo holds his central position to ensure that Willian can't receive the ball between the lines. So as you can see, Southampton's press disrupted Arsenal from building attacks from deeper positions, and even if they had Xhaka dropping to the left of Gabriel or El Neni shifting to the right of Holding, they were able to push Diallo or Ward-Prowse into those zones or have Adams or Ings blocking off the passing lane into the Arsenal midfielders. So when you question how Arsenal were able to get into good positions in that opening half, you have to look at their shape, and Nketiah was occupying the two center backs. Willian struggled to get involved in the game between the lines. You had Pepe holding the touchline ahead of Bertrand, and that's where you saw Martinelli shifting into more of a central position in that gap between Walker-Peters and Bednarek, or also shifting ahead of Bednarek, and that would allow Cedric to push forward beyond Armstrong or Walcott down that left-hand side. Perhaps Southampton weren't worried about Cedric's threat from left back, knowing that he's a natural right back, but he was consistently able to break down that channel beyond Armstrong and Walcott, who were often caught in narrow positions. There was a time where El Neni slid the ball across Diallo to split Ward-Prowse and Walcott for Cedric shifting laterally into space between the lines, and Cedric broke forward into Southampton's half to ignite a 5v4 counterattack with Martinelli available in the left channel, and from this position, Cedric should be sliding the ball into this zone. However, what ends up happening is that he breaks forward towards the box and plays an underhit square pass into Martinelli to halt the Arsenal counter, and that results in a blocked shot. Along with the space that Cedric was afforded down the left channel, the manner in which Arsenal were able to get into good attacking positions involved Pepe dropping off Bertrand to receive the ball in space, and Nketiah's runs between the Southampton center backs or when he dropped off into space to link play with his teammates. There was a time where Bellerin squared the ball to Nketiah dropping off the Southampton center backs ahead of Ward-Prowse, where he located space between Stevens and Bertrand to play in Willian down the right channel, and here you could see Cedric in ample space beyond Walcott. When Willian receives Nketiah's ball into that zone, he pulls out Stevens and his only option in the box is Martinelli ahead of Walker-Peters, but you could see Cedric making a late run towards the box. Bednarek clears Willian's first-time delivery to the edge of the box for an unmarked Cedric, but the Arsenal makeshift left-back skied his high-quality chance over the net. And later on in the first half, you could see Bellerin cutting across Bertrand to split Southampton's midfield duo to play in Willian between the lines. as we see Martinelli playing off Bednarek's shoulder and Nketiah making a forward run between the center back gap because Stevens was forced to shift out to the touchline to close Pepe. When Willian receives the ball, he turns to run at the Southampton defense, and you can highlight a few issues here when Nketiah darts between the center backs. First, you can see Pepe unmarked on the right, and Cedric and acres of space beyond Walcott on the left. Willian's pass into right half space for Nketiah does result in the Arsenal striker cutting across Stevens, but his touch is loose and the ball falls to Pepe in a goal-scoring position, but he fires his effort off Bednarek. And if we look to one final example, you could see Xhaka bypassing a stepping Diallo to split Ward-Prowse and Armstrong into Pepe dropping off Bertrand, while Nketiah also steps away from Stevens. When Pepe receives Xhaka's pass in space ahead of Bertrand, there's a lane available to carry the ball central, while we could see Nketiah spinning forward off Stevens, who was pulled out of position due to his movement, thus ultimately creating a passing lane to find Martinelli preparing to run off Bednarek's shoulder. Pepe takes his touch across Bertrand and locates the run of Martinelli off Bednarek's shoulder and opts to play a penetrative pass across Stevens. What's also key to note is that Nketiah rolls off Stevens to create that space for Pepe. However, luckily for Southampton, Bednarek does well to make a last-ditch lunge to intercept Pepe's pass for Martinelli, who made a run off his shoulder to break free on goal. Meanwhile, when we shift to Arsenal, their press was very straightforward. They had Willian and Nketiah pushing towards the Southampton centre backs. Pepe and Martinelli were tasked with closing down the fullbacks. Elneny and Xhaka would push forward to close down Ward-Prowse and Diallo. And then you would see Bellerin and Cedric trying to close down Walcott and Armstrong. That leaves the center backs in a 2v2 battle with Adams and Ings. And then you have to question how Southampton would create chances. That's where we'd have to focus our attention back to that left side of the pitch for Arsenal. With Cedric pushing forward, that did get them into good positions in that opening half. But what we ended up seeing was that when Walcott played on the right-hand side, he was able to exploit space behind the Arsenal makeshift left back. And in terms of his overall movement, he was able to make runs across Cedric into good positions. And when Arsenal were higher up the pitch, he was looking to break in behind into that gap between Holding and Gabriel. You witness Bednarek splitting Xhaka and Nketiah to locate Walcott dropping off Cedric into a pocket of space. Walcott does well to turn towards goal and hold off Xhaka's pressure to slide the ball into Ings, making a run between the Arsenal center backs. And here, you could criticize Walcott for not playing a pass that would set Ings free on goal. The Southampton striker fails to take Walcott's pass forward, but he still receives a tight passing lane for Adams' run beyond Gabriel into space beyond Cedric, but the Arsenal center back makes a vital block to deny a goal-scoring opportunity. There was a time where Ings flicked the ball over tight pressure from Holding to break into Arsenal's half, following Bertrand's splitting pass between Elneny and Bellerin. And that's where you see Walcott beginning to make an unmarked forward movement through the center of the pitch. But once again, Ings fails to successfully play a penetrative pass beyond Gabriel to bypass that Arsenal backline, this time for Walcott to run across Cedric. And if we look to one final example, it's Armstrong holding off Bellerin and beginning to carry the ball across Xhaka near the halfway line, and that's where you see Walcott beginning to make a deep run across Cedric. But while Walcott makes a great run between Gabriel and Cedric to break behind that Arsenal backline, the issue that Southampton encounter here involves Armstrong splitting the center backs with a pass into the left channel opposed to playing the ball over the top. As you can see here, Armstrong's ball plays Walcott free down the left channel beyond Holding, but he still has Gabriel and Cedric providing cover, with Ings' deep run towards the Arsenal penalty area as his best support option. Meanwhile, if we focus back on Arsenal, there were some elements to their play that improved in the second half that helped them bypass that Southampton press. One was the inclusion of Thomas Partey, who helped Arsenal penetrate and break lines with his passing and his ability to carry the ball forward. And the other factor here was Nketiah's runs between the Southampton center backs into attacking positions in the channels. When we look to one example, it's Pepe nodding Stevens' clearance into the right channel for Nketiah's run into that zone to drag out the Southampton center back. And from there, Nketiah plays the ball around Stevens to combine with Pepe, who made a run into space behind the Southampton center back to pull out Bertrand. Pepe does well to backheel a first-time ball across the left back into right half space for Nketiah, who has a clear run towards goal as Diallo and Bednarek fail to shift over to cover the large gap of space in that zone. The issue Nketiah encounters here is his first touch is slightly heavy onto his left foot, which gives Diallo, Ward-Prowse, and Bednarek time to close down, thus resulting in a low tame effort that the Southampton centre back blocks. And then you can look to a time where Willian slides the ball to Pepe ahead of Walker-Peters on the left touchline, and that's when you could see Nketiah making a run between the Southampton centre backs into left half space. Pepe's ball around Walker-Peters and Bednarek connects with Nketiah's run into left half space to place the Arsenal striker in a legitimate goal-scoring position, but with Stevens quickly shifting across to close down, Nketiah stabs a low first-time effort on goal that Forster pushes away. Arteta's last roll of the dice saw him bring on Lacazette for Bellerin, which pushed Bukayo Saka to left back and Cedric into his natural position. What ended up happening here was that Willian also shifted to the left-hand side, and the most common theme that got Arsenal into attacking positions involved Willian dropping off deeper into narrow pockets of space to receive the ball, to allow Saka to push forward to give Arsenal the attacking threat that they lacked down the left side of the pitch. But in both situations, Daddy got into positions ahead of Walker-Peters. The first time Forster was able to push his effort away, and the second example saw Saka receive the ball beyond Walcott. The delivery into that zone evaded Lacazette and the center backs as Forster watched the ball fly through the 6-yard box.
Hi everybody, thanks for watching and subscribe here for your latest tactical analysis and daily commentary on the InnerViews show. And if that wasn't enough, don't forget you could find more organic, unfiltered soccer/football analysis on the InnerViews podcast, the best soccer/football podcast in the world, available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and any Android apps on your Android devices.